Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating philosophical framework, one that looks at physical attractiveness, societal energy, and the hidden, often totally misunderstood costs of being beautiful. I mean, have you ever wondered why the lives of the exceptionally good-looking sometimes take these incredibly unexpected, tragic turns? Why someone who literally seems to have it all can just suddenly lose everything in a highly public, spectacular way? Well, the source material we're unpacking today offers a profound and frankly kind of startling perspective on why that happens.
So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. Why is it that, throughout history, extreme physical beauty is so often linked to tragedy or terrible misfortune? We see it absolutely everywhere, right? In ancient folklore, and the crazy rise and fall of modern celebrities, and hey, maybe even in our own social circles. So is it just coincidence, a bit of confirmation bias, or is there an actual structural reason behind this historical pattern? Let's find out. The material explores this exact phenomenon through a specific cultural and philosophical concept. It's called Mi-in-bak-bok. Now, this roughly translates to the idea that beautiful people very often suffer bad luck or a tragic fate, and this is an absolutely crucial distinction here, the lecture makes it clear this isn't about some mystical superstition. It's definitely not a magic curse handed down by jealous gods. Actually, it's about a very practical, highly observable law of cause and effect. It suggests that having extraordinary looks sets up a very unique psychological environment, one that practically guarantees failure if it's not managed the right way.
This brings us to Section 1, the energy of beauty.
Here's where the speaker radically reframes how we should even look at physical attractiveness. The core of this philosophy rests on this fascinating idea of a societal loan. Basically, beauty isn't just genetic luck that you get to selfishly enjoy in a vacuum. No, it's actually a massive influx of societal energy granted to a person. And, just like any loan you get from a bank, it comes with some incredibly heavy conditions. Society gives you this immense, totally unearned advantage, but with the strict expectation that you're going to use it for intellectual and public good. You're supposed to accomplish meaningful things that others, who didn't get this massive head start, simply can't pull off. And honestly, the immediate advantages of this loan are just undeniable. The lecture argues that beauty acts as an automatic, deeply powerful magnet. It's a completely passive superpower. It effortlessly pulls high-status individuals right into your orbit. It draws in wealth and financial resources without you even having to break a sweat. If you are exceptionally beautiful, the source notes that highly successful people actually willingly want to share their money, their status, and their resources with you. Society literally clears a path, instantly removing the daily friction that average folks have to deal with all the time.
But that brings us to Section 2, the superficiality trap.
So, while those perks are obviously fantastic, getting too comfortable with them is exactly where the psychological trouble starts. The trap springs when a beautiful person just happily accepts all these societal advantages, the cash, the endless attention, the high-status partners, but then turns around and invests basically 95% of their energy into outward aesthetics. They become entirely obsessed with maintaining the outer shell, chasing designer bags, demanding luxury vacations, or upgrading to fancier cars. Meanwhile, a measly 5%, or let's be real, very often absolutely nothing at all, goes into their intellectual pursuits. They're just coasting on that societal loan, totally forgetting that the interest is constantly occurring.
The speaker uses a brilliant, though pretty harsh, metaphor to describe this exact state. They call it osteoporosis of the mind. Just let that terrifying image sink in for a second. With actual osteoporosis, the outer bone might look completely normal and intact, right? But the inside has become porous, fragile, and completely hollow. And that is exactly what happens when someone relies solely on their looks and completely ignores their inner intellectual development. They look perfectly robust on the outside, but structurally, there's absolutely nothing holding them up.
And here is why that is so dangerous. Life inevitably gets difficult. It just does. The successful provider, the partner who is initially drawn in by all that beauty, eventually hits a severe roadblock. Maybe it's in their career, their finances, or just their personal life. And naturally, they instinctively turn to their beautiful spouse, looking for a meaningful dialogue, a sounding board, or just some strategic problem solving. But because of that osteoporosis of the mind, they hit a brick wall of emptiness. The beautiful partner can only really talk about the next luxury purchase, offering absolutely zero help in navigating life's real heavy challenges.
Which leads us straight into Section 3, the curse of beauty. This is the tragic breaking point. The exact moment the initial societal loan defaults, the source makes a very strong, unvarnished claim about infidelity here to illustrate this point. Picture this. On one side, you have the beautiful but intellectually empty spouse who just keeps demanding a life of luxury but totally lacks communication skills.
On the other side, the provider inevitably seeks out someone else. Maybe it's an affair partner who is far less physically attractive and has zero societal status, but, and here's the kicker, they actually provide deep, meaningful, and grounding communication. The lecture argues a fundamental human truth here. When a crisis hits, people will ultimately gravitate toward whoever can actually talk to them and ease their mental burden.
This brilliantly exposes a pretty dark shift in human psychology. When that intellectual connection totally fails, the provider's mindset shifts entirely. They literally stop seeing the beauty and they start seeing the bills. They begin to coldly calculate the immense financial cost of maintaining their partner's luxury lifestyle, weighing it against the absolutely zero emotional and intellectual return they're getting. This stark calculation rapidly breeds an intense, deep-seated resentment. And according to the lecture, that resentment leads directly to mistreatment and eventually total abandonment.
The lecture outlines this whole process as a deeply tragic timeline, a vicious cycle that completely traps those who don't develop their inner selves. In year 1, the initial match is made. The beauty successfully and effortlessly attracts the wealth. But by year 3, the communication breakdown happens as that sheer lack of intellect is painfully exposed. Fast forward to year 5, and this inevitable frustration has led to betrayal and abandonment. And the real tragedy? By year 10, the whole cycle just repeats. The beautiful person, having learned absolutely nothing from the failure, moves on to a new partner based only on looks and wealth once again, and inevitably fails again. And as they age, relying on that fading physical beauty becomes harder and harder, making each cycle so much more devastating.
The ultimate result of this repeating cycle of relying entirely on physical beauty without cultivating any real inner substance is a profound, deeply isolating suffering. The speaker puts it powerfully, and honestly quite poetically. Eventually, these individuals end up crying tears of blood in their hearts. It's a striking, profoundly sorrowful image. It perfectly captures the immense pain of waking up one day and realizing you've completely squandered a massive societal gift, leaving you entirely alone.
So, how do we avoid this agonizing fate? How do you actually break the curse? Let's explore the solution in Section 4, Cultivating True Inner Wealth. The fundamental rule presented here is basically an ethical one, based on energy exchange. If you receive significant energy from society, like exceptional beauty, a great talent, or even just an amazing environment, you don't just get to sit back and relax. You have a strict, undeniable obligation to perform intellectual, meaningful work for the public good. It's a heavy debt, and you absolutely owe it to the society that handed you that advantage in the first place.
To actively fulfill this duty, the speaker lays out 3 very clear steps. Step 1. You have got to engage in continuous study to build true inner substance. That is how you cure that osteoporosis of the mind. That deep study organically leads to step 2, learning to speak intelligently. You want to ensure that the words leaving your mouth are just as beautiful and refined as your physical appearance. And finally, when you combine a strong mind with articulate speech, it leads directly to step 3, orienting your thoughts and actions toward the public good. You have to find tangible, real ways to actively serve the society that elevated you. The lecture frames this whole idea using a really specific metaphor, princess syndrome. It states that a princess is only truly revered and respected when she is genuinely useful and necessary to her people. Her title alone, it just isn't enough. If she consumes massive amounts of the kingdom's energy but contributes absolutely nothing of value in return, she loses her status entirely. As the speaker bluntly puts it, the kingdom simply moves on, and she is eventually just shoved into a dusty corner, completely forgotten and ignored. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought that takes this philosophy way beyond just physical beauty. Think about your own life. Consider the natural privileges, the talents, the favorable environments, or whatever societal energy you personally have been loaned. Are you resting entirely on those laurels? Or are you actively cultivating the inner substance and intellect required to actually repay that loan to society? It's a really powerful lens through which to view our own personal growth. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the invisible forces shaping our lives.